Hi everyone, I'm Fatin Shamimi with my friend here Anis Marjan. So here's a kickstart question. How do we teach literature from way back, say poetry and novels from the 20th century, to students of our time?
To guide you to the answer, we're going to attempt to give a concise review of the book Communal Modernism, Teaching 20th Century Literature and Culture in the 21st Century Classroom by collaborative editors Emily Hinoff, Laura M. Harris and Lauren M. Rosenblum.
Emily Hinoff tries to define modernism as the conversation that resonates with our time, as opposed to a master narrative of a past period. Here, the works of the past are explored through the feminist approach to be brought more suitably into the classroom. They also recommend teaching strategies to put their writings into practice. The first part is an in-depth discussion on how photography and film play a role on communal modernism. For instance, Hinoff makes use of the idea of maternal longing through Woolf's novel To the Lighthouse and captivating motherhood photos by Gertrude Casimir. Laurel Harris unravels H.D. and Richardson's point of view of the silent film, which forms a congregation among its audience. Rosenblum's writing probes in great depth the role of luxury adornments in the life of Helga Crane, who uses the splendor of objects to shift away her spectators' objectifying gaze. Part 2 highlights the politics aspect of communal modernism, which firstly follows Ortega's teaching of Regis the Ghetto, alongside Reese's Shock photographs that foregrounds the social injustice surrounding New York. Next is Fawcett's editorial roles in the empowerment of African Americans' voices through the crisis. Sue's analysis of Reese's voyage in the dark underlines Britain's imperial advertising seen from the viewpoint of the novel's main character, Anna, who questions the admirable and unattainable English woman purity.
For part 3, the key points of community role is mainly highlighted by the writers. There are important issues such as the impact of World War on women and how the community plays a role in overcoming trauma, animalization, narration and painting, and more. Furthermore, each chapters include one lesson plan suggested by them, demonstrating on how to use the aids or text in teaching literature to students. I think the first chapter captivates my attention the most as it talks about the interrelation between photography and literature. It touches on such a refreshing topic, and plus the lesson plan suggested is totally amendable and applicable on daily teaching. For example, the writer shares on the teaching lesson that she has tried out with her students, starting with the introduction to the topic to sharing photographs of the students' families, and from there she shows how to apply the analysis onto their own past experience as young children. I personally prefer to have my students getting the access to relate the teaching to their own experience, for it will boost their interest to actually participate in the activity.
I love the chapter Things because of the simple choice of words Rosenblum used in retelling a complicated story. At first, I thought I misunderstood Helga's intention, because what she did wearing all these expensive accessories worsened her situation. But it gives me a new perspective. It's how objects can mislead us when shaping our identity. And even now, I still can see the influence of fashion and beauty magazines. She recommends showing a copy of influential magazines like The Messenger and Harper's Bazaar. Her lessons can be adjusted to suit younger learners too, because the magazine culture certainly has its effects to teenagers and children. Now that we have the internet, everything is becoming more visual.
I think the grammar usage is a bit too extreme to comprehend by normal readers, and personally it gets me confused with all this out-of-norm vocabulary, and the sentences are too long without any pauses or full stop, and this will further lead to readers getting confused, especially those with poor vocabulary, to understand entirely about what the writers are suggesting on.
I felt the same way as Marjan. Most of the chapters also use some vague terms. An example is Public Horizon from chapter 2, which is quite hard to comprehend, especially when combined with the long sentences. Adenoidal barrier was also a challenge for me. On top of that, it's vexing that I had never heard of the literary works and films that the authors use in teaching. So I needed to look them up first to figure out what the authors are trying to tell me.
We think this book is great for literature lecturers who look for new approaches in teaching the modernism genre. It's also useful for advanced literature students with eagerness to understand 20th century history, media, and culture from feminist point of view.
We both thought that this book has given us new and stimulating insights from multiple perspectives to learn and teach literature from the era. Many of the teaching strategies are quite flexible and created not solely for college students. Each contributor to this volume has a different writing style and charms of their own. Although some chapters are a bit complicated, perhaps it is how we came to learn, by facing those obstacles.